there, I am Pini Mahinay, and today's video we will going to interview the very own Miss Cheryl Dagunlay Antiga. Thank you so much, Mom, for saying yes to this interview. We really appreciate it. Would you mind if you share some personal infos of yours?
Okay, so once again, good morning also. And also, I'm very grateful for you guys for having me here today.
Thank you
So,
so
by the way, I am teacher Cheryl Dagunlay Antiga, and I've been teaching English for 5 years now.
much.
And I am currently connected in the depth.
Okay, thank you so much, Mom, for that info. At present, what grade level are you teaching, Mom?
Okay, at present, I am teaching English in the elementary level
Okay.
for almost 5 years.
Okay, thank you so much. So moving on to our main question this morning. The first question, what are the materials or approaches you use in teaching language?
Thank you for that question. Teaching in the elementary level for almost 5 years now in English, we should consider the background of our learners. So, one of those is we're going to use the materials that we could find in their localization or in their community. And I think, or as experience, one of the effective material that we could use is a localized material. Okay, example is a legend in the community and the story behind in their community.
Thank you so much for that insightful answer of yours, Mom. So let's proceed now to our second question. For the second question, can you show us how do you use or apply these materials in your class?
Okay, by using localized material, one of my example is this coconut tree. By showing it to the pupils, what is the coconut tree that could be found in a community? So, example, by letting the pupils to describe the coconut tree is letting them to develop their vocabulary and also their grammar. By simply stating the simple sentence, they could form a sentence that could be later on be used in the further lesson.
So another question, Ma'am. How do you select materials in language learning in your classroom?
I select materials based on the learning objectives on the specific competency. It is because the material should be aligned with the objectives that we're going to teach for the day.
So now let's move on to our fourth question. So the question goes like this. Which do you think is more effective in language teaching? The learner-centered materials or the teacher-centered materials?
Of course, the learner centered material is the most effective since when learners are engaged in the activity, there is a more meaningful learning on it.
So now we are bound to our fifth question. So our question is, how do you assess the effectiveness of learner-centered materials and approaches in language teaching?
Okay, so thank you for that. No, so I assess the effectiveness of a learner-centered material by giving the pupils an activity that is allowing the pupils to perform on their own. So by exploring, so one of the example is by creating a poem or by performing a role play. In that, I could assess that there is learning or my activity, my material is effective if they could perform on that activity.
So there you go, guys. We are now to our last and final question. So the question is, what advice can you give to us as a future language teachers in selecting instructional materials and employing approaches within a learner-centered classroom?
All right, so my advice for you as a pre-service teachers, so as a 10 years in the DepEd or in the teaching career, So one of my advice is know your pupils or understand the background of each pupils that you had or have. It is because by knowing the background of each pupils, you will know what specific or the most appropriate material or approaches that you're going to employ. And then be flexible and also explore because not one objective or I mean one strategy is effective to all. So in order to address the needs of all learners in your classroom, explore strategies that is more effective and also be sensitive to your learners needs. So for example, there are a lot of pupils or one of our pupils learners in our community are members of the indigenous peoples group.
So that ends our interview. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much, Teacher Sherelle. We can thank you enough for saying yes to this interview. Thank you so much for that insightful knowledge, ideas that you imparted us. Surely we will bring this knowledge until to the real realm of teaching.